Makes it take the test, so like it is what it is.
Hey y'all.
You need a camera?
Hey y'all. Hey Courtney. Hey Gage,
Are you?
you see the Big Ten's fixing to start playing?
I did.
Yeah.
I saw it
In a month.
Yeah.
I didn't respond because I've been. I've got it. And I will make that change. Hello. Do you? Yes. Do I have to go verify that? Really? We talk about y'all.
I'm gonna be gone.
Okay. Okay. Good. Y'all don't do that. Y'all play straight. Okay. All right. Well, good. Thank you, Conrad. You're done peopling? I like that. I am too. Y'all have a great day, okay? Not everybody here belongs in here. Yeah, I don't know how those signals got crossed, but somehow Dr. Gia thought that we were fully online today. I don't know who told her that. I didn't, and she didn't ask me, so.
I thought they just liked the class so much they wanted to stay.
Yeah, probably. Probably. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
Sorry for the miscommunication. Hi, Sierra. Hey, Lori. All right, folks. So good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I don't know what happened with the confusion about Dr. Gia thinking that we were online today. I don't know where that information came from. It didn't come from me. So at any rate, sorry about that. Made a little interesting transition there. And we actually shouldn't be gathering up in hallways anyway. That's one of the things they don't want us doing. So at any rate, sorry. Y'all are doing great, by the way, too. Today's day 20 of classes, or yesterday was day 20 of classes, and got an email from the president saying it's day 20 and we're doing a lot better than we expected. So I think we're like at 20 cases or something like that, but we had 14 of those before schools even started back. So y'all are doing great. Okay, keep up the good work. Okay, so today, specifically for your class, I had a very good intention, and you know what they say about intentions. The highway to heck is paved with good intentions. Here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to show you how to implement 2 strategies in this class, as well as 2 strategies in my 8 o'clock class for them. But in my 8 o'clock class, I realized I don't have time. I like to talk too much. So I did a very thorough explanation for my 8 o'clock class of how you implement a cost leadership strategy, okay? That includes looking at the PowerPoint slides for this back from chapter 4, and then walking you through every one of the decisions, every decision screen. I saved that video and uploaded it to YouTube, okay? and you have a link to it in D2L. If you will go in D2L, look under Globus information, there's a new section there called Globus Videos, and there's a video entitled How to Implement a Cost Leadership Strategy in Globus, okay? It's an hour and a half long, and I promise you it's painful, and I promise you, you probably won't watch it, but I put it there for you nonetheless, okay? For you guys, I'm going to spend this class time going through specifically how you implement a differentiation strategy, what you need to try to accomplish, starting with the PowerPoint from chapter 4 about how to implement a differentiation strategy, and then taking you through the decision screens on implementing a differentiation strategy. Make sense? Okay. I'm going to upload this video to YouTube. Now it takes it a couple of hours to convert, y'all, because it's literally an hour and 20 minutes long, and it takes it a while to upload and convert. But once it does that, I will share the link to this lecture with you and with my 8 o'clock class. So both of y'all have the lectures over how to implement your strategy. And since I'm from Georgia, y'all, and I talk kind of slow, you can actually watch those videos at 1.25 or 1.5 times speed and, you know, cut a good bit of the time out of it. All right. So at any rate, we need to remember what the differentiation strategy is. Oh yeah, by the way, one other thing. This is Shakiba Joseph. You have heard me talk about having a graduate assistant to help you. Shakiba is that guy. He is my boy wonder. Had him a year ago. Hey, he doesn't like you to laugh at him. He is my man. He ran Globus a year ago. He was right where y'all were a year ago. Now he's in our MBA program. His team won the simulation, and he learned a few things, and he applied for a graduate assistantship, and I said, yes, I want him, because my goal with a graduate assistant is to leverage myself to help you, okay? So he is your point of contact. Shakiba, do you have a word for them?
So like maybe as a recent student of this class, I think you guys should listen, pay attention to detail, and follow instructions. Also, there is a guide, a participant's guide for Globus. I think you guys should print it out and make it your lover, because it will help you get through Globus with ease.
Print it out and make it your lover? Is that what you said? Okay, what he really meant to say is that you need to print out the participant's guide, read it, highlight it, and bring it to class with you when you're making decisions, okay? Because you're gonna have questions of me, and you're gonna have questions of Shakiba, and my first response to your question is, what does the participant's guide say about that? And if you don't have the participant's guide, I'm gonna expect you to dig it out and try to find the answer yourself, okay? It's kind of like the syllabus. You know, all those questions that everybody always asks late in the semester, yeah, they were in the syllabus, okay? So the participant's guide is kind of, I say it's your Bible. He says it's your lover. We've got some miscommunication somewhere. But at any rate, okay? Shakiba is in my outer office, room 272, on Mondays and Wednesdays. Let's just say his normal working hours are like 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., okay? So what does that mean for y'all? Means pretty much he's available for the entire morning and until you come to class, okay? And on the decision days, I'm gonna have him here in class running interference for me, trying to help you make decisions, okay? So if you wanna meet with him, very easy to do so. Just come to the office and he can help you, okay? So that's on Mondays and Wednesday mornings. Just remember, he's also helping the other class, so his time is a little bit limited, but we want to make sure that you get strategic management. We want to make sure that you understand the application portion of his class, which is where the rubber hits the road, right? We've done the preparation. We're in the process of doing the examination today. Y'all are taking your exams, and this is application. We want to make sure that you know how to apply what you've learned, okay? So what is differentiation strategy? It's an integrated set of actions taken to produce products at an acceptable cost that customers perceive as being distinctive or different or differentiated, if you will, in ways that are important to them. Now, what is that about? It's not just getting a distinctive product, it's making that product so distinctive that you can charge a higher price for it, okay? In other words, you're not worried about value at this point. You're not worried about the relationship between the price and the PQ rating, except that you want to charge more than people expect. You want to charge a premium price, okay? So you want customers to perceive your product as being distinctive, desirable, use your D word of choice in ways that are important to them. You want to attract customers to you. Cost leaders serve the typical customer in the industry, right? Remember, cost leaders were down on this end of our continuum. Differentiated strategies target the customers who want the prestige, okay? So you're targeting the atypical customer, right? Not the normal customer. You want to create value by making your product differently from those that your competitors are making, okay? Innovation is critical. A new product or a new service that solves the customer's problem and benefits both the customer and the company is critical to successful implementation of the differentiation strategy. Some specific things that you can do, okay? We're trying to cater our product to the unique needs of our customers, okay? So we can charge premium prices. It substantially exceeds the cost. So while we are over here and we have lower volume, we have higher gross profit margin, okay? It should substantially exceed the cost of creating the features. In other words, it's not enough just to recoup your cost of making your product differentiated. You need to charge a higher markup, okay? We want you to outperform your rivals and earn above average returns, okay? You've got to continually upgrade the differentiated features that customers value, and you've got to create new valuable features without significant cost increases. So Ivan came to me today before class. He texted me last night and came to me before class today and says, are you going to do this specifically? Because I started reading that Globus Participants Guide and that thing's thick. Okay, hopefully it'll make more sense to you after today. But just know that this thing has a tremendous number of moving parts. Okay, so we're going to jump in. I'm going to be giving you some very useful tips and tricks and information. And every time that I do that, I'm going to try to tell you this is important, right? Okay, so I want you to kind of pay attention. Starting with this is important on the drone, it's very important to address what customers want. And specifically, if you read the Globus Participants Guide, it will tell you that they want drones that will fly longer, for a longer period of time, and fly outside of the line of sight, okay? So that should give you 2 clues about what we need to do to produce the drones, okay? You with me? All right, so we're gonna jump in to Globus. And let me share the correct screen here. Okay, so this is your decision entry screens in Globus. Okay, we're going to address all of these decision entry screens with one exception. The only one that I cannot address is special contract offers. And the reason I can't address that is those don't come available until year 9. Okay, so first, when we've decided that we've got a strategy we want to implement, the differentiation strategy, the first thing that we need to do is decide what does a differentiated product look like, okay? Now there's some very real things that your customer can look at. You know, I haven't always been at the point where I could spend money really freely, and I'm still kind of a cheapskate. Okay, I don't like to spend money unnecessarily. But there for a period of time, we'll call it parenting as kids get into high school and you have those expenses, right? We had to be really conscious about how we spent money. So I actually subscribed to the magazine Consumer Reports, okay? So there's an independent third party who reviews consumer products and then provides a report about the quality of those. In your industry, you have the exact same thing. Your customer has useful information from that third party that gives you your performance quality rating. Okay, your performance quality rating is first shown right here. Everybody in the industry is making a 4-star product that ranges from 0 stars to 10 stars. Okay, so that's kind of like our continuum. If we're down here on the cost leadership side, it's a given that our performance quality rating has to be lower than somebody that's differentiated, right? Okay, and here's what I want you thinking about. Let's go back to Economics 101. Business is about recombining resources in such a way that you create value, okay? You harvest value from the way that you put those resources together. And very specifically, we have land, labor, and capital, okay? On these screens, we're dealing with the natural resource, and think of it as land if you want to, okay? It's okay to think of it as land, because when we talk about image sensors and LCD displays and image quality and camera housing, all of that stuff is rooted in natural resources. We may not be making it ourselves. We're buying those components and putting it into our product. Okay, so here's what we want to do. We need to create a distinctive product as cost effectively as possible. Okay, so in other words, we want to use as few resources, and when I say as few resources as possible, what I really mean is you want to use as low a value of resources as you possibly can to create the most customer's perception of value, okay? So you have the ability to adjust your inputs to make your product distinctive, okay? Now on the camera is kind of your entry-level product, okay? But I want you to know that this camera goes into your drone, okay? The camera that you make, you're your single largest customer on that, okay? So your strategy needs to be relatively consistent with both of those products. More about that in a bit, okay? So right now, everybody in the industry is making their products exactly the same. Everybody has the same image sensor, LCD display screen, image quality, and they have the same number of enhancements, the same number of models, and so forth and so on, okay? So let me come out of here just 1 second. Okay. Okay. So this is where I've made the decisions for cost leadership, but what I'd like to do is I would like to go in and reset those. Hang on. They've moved stuff around for me. It's somewhere here in the menu. Export options and data reset. I want to reset my decision entries here because I don't want to conflate the strategies. I want to go back to the way the products were being made at the end of year 5, okay? So what you see there is the way that the products were made at the end of year 5, okay? So that's to say every competitor has an 11 millimeter image sensor. Every competitor has a 920K display screen. Every competitor has the same image quality, and every competitor is putting the exact same amount into their product enhancements, okay? Everybody's putting the exact same amount into research and development, okay? And everybody's screen, every company's screen should look like the screen that you see here, okay? Now, if I want to make my product distinctive on the camera, perhaps what I need to do is increase my image quality. Okay, so if I go to 4096 by 2160, my costs are going to go up substantially, but I also generate a much higher PQ rating. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm making my video resolution higher quality. In order for people to see that before they retrieve the video, I probably need to increase my LCD screen so they can see the quality of what they've done, okay? And I probably need to put some enhancements onto my product that make my product more desirable. In other words, I need to do a little better quality housing to hold this much more high quality camera. I probably need to increase the ease of editing and sharing, and I probably need to give them some accessories. And I may even want to go in and give them some extra performance features, okay? So if I do all of those things, I've just kind of played around with my inputs here, okay? And I've increased my performance quality rating from 4 stars to 5.4 stars. Okay, so that's roughly 35%. That's a 35% increase. I've increased my cost from 154 and some change to 193. Okay, that's going to be roughly about a 28 to 30% increase in my price, in my cost to make it, right? My cost went from 154 and some change up to 193. Okay, my cost went up a little less than $40. That's a little less than 30%. Okay, my PQ rating went from 4 stars to 5.4 stars. Okay, that is a 35% increase, and y'all check my math if you want to. 30% of 4 would be 5.2 stars. 40% would be 5.6. I'm right in the middle, so it's 35% increase. Okay, so I'm asking myself this question. Have I created excessive value in the way that I've put my product together? Okay. If my costs have only gone up slightly less than 30%, but my PQ has gone up 35%, the answer to that is what? It should be yes. Okay. I have created more value than my cost. Okay. But that's not enough. That's the cost side of it. And differentiation really isn't about cost. Differentiation really is about the perception of a premium product that people are willing to pay more for. Okay? So my hope is when I've made this 5.4 star camera that that's going to be the most differentiated product in the industry. Okay? So I'm going to save that. Also, I know that research and development is critically important. And if you'll read this Globus Participants Guide, which you can access the immediate information by hitting help, okay? You get your product design decisions, and it tells you the importance of those, okay? What does product R&D do? It provides a pipeline of tested ways to A, add more features, B, improve performance, C, build the company's proficiencies in designing new and improved camera drone models, and D, making the camera's drone models easier and quicker to assemble. Does that sound like it's an important part of the differentiation strategy? Okay, so I'm not going to change my research and development. Not going to change it. I'm going to leave it at $20 million. Now, I could cut my cost by cutting my R&D. Right? You see, if I do that, my costs go down about $20 per camera. But is that consistent with my strategy? So what I'd like to do now is remind you, okay, of those 3 steps that I talked about with strategy. It's got to be intentional. okay, is what I'm doing intentional? Okay? Is what I'm doing consistent? Is it consistent with what the book's telling us, and is it consistent with what we want to do? And then there's some internal consistency that I'll talk about when I get to designing the drone, okay? And the other thing is it logical, okay? Remember, intentional, consistent, logical. Does it make sense? So that's what I'm after. Now we're going to make a drone, okay? We want our drone to be perceived as high quality. The very essence of a high quality drone has to be its heart and soul, right? But the way that we've got this done right now, we have a 5.4 star camera going into a 4.1 star drone. Okay, so we didn't create a lot of value by increasing the quality of our camera that we put into our drone. We only created a 0.1 star increase, right? And by the way, we're just doing a minor upgrade to our camera when we put it into our drone. The cheapest way for you to get an increase in PQ rating is by doing an upgrade on your camera that you're putting into your drone. That's the cheapest way to increase your PQ rating, okay? So right now, here's what I'll say and what I'll tell you. It cost me $19 more than my best model to put my camera into my drone. But what do I get in return for that $19? If I do no upgrade to my camera, I'm at 3.9 stars. My costs are $193.61. Y'all see that? If I do a minor upgrade, my costs go up to $212. Okay? So in other words, it's costing me $19 more to make my drone, but I'm getting a 0.2 star bump in my PQ rating. However, this is the intentional, consistent, logical part of it. Does it really make sense to take a 5.4 star camera and put it into a 4-star drone? Or in this case, really a 3.9 star drone? That's the logical part of it that you have to ask yourself. If I'm testing logic, that doesn't pass the sniff test, okay? It doesn't make sense. Here's the way that I look at this. I can't tell you exactly how these things are calculated because it's a black box. I don't know. But here's what I suspect. If we do a minor upgrade to our camera, we're probably increasing the PQ rating by about 10%. If we do a significant upgrade, we're probably increasing our PQ rating by about 20%. And if we do a major upgrade, we're probably increasing our PQ rating by about 30%. So in other words, what does that mean? I'm really not putting a 5.4 star camera into my drone. I'm really putting about a 5.94 star camera into my drone. Because you see, with a minor upgrade, it's 10% better. And if I did a significant upgrade, it'd be 20% better. That'd be like almost a 6.5 star product, okay? And if I did a major upgrade, it'd be 30% better. That'd be like a 7-star camera into a 4-star drone. And I think we would all say that doesn't make sense, okay? So internal consistency here, okay? Your strategies have to be consistent with one another. Now you can get by with the cost leadership strategy over here on the camera side and a differentiation strategy on the drone side because you have the ability to upgrade your camera. So you're putting a better quality camera into your drone, right? However, is that logical? Given that you're spending money on marketing a company, and even within a company, our brands are closely linked in their perception of quality, it really wouldn't make sense to run 2 divergent strategies within the same company. That just isn't logical. In other words, what am I saying there? Lexus could not get by saying that they have the relentless pursuit of perfection. They couldn't get by with that unless Toyotas were already acceptable quality, right? So what we've done with the Lexus brand at Toyota is we've taken an already highly regarded brand and we've just basically perfected it. That's what they want you to perceive. Make sense? Okay. So we know that our customers want a drone that can fly longer and further, okay? So if I do 15 minutes on my battery pack, what does that mean? I'm getting 20% more flight time, okay? If I do a advanced rotor performance flight controller, that means that it will fly outside of the line of sight, or I'm getting closer to flying outside of the line of sight, okay? So what I'm doing with that is I'm moving closer to what my customers actually desire, which is a drone that flies further and flies outside of the line of sight, right? Have y'all heard that companies are actually now starting drone deliveries? So line of sight's a big deal, okay? Because if a drone has to have an operator who stays within sight, why not just have that person that's operating the drone deliver the package, right? Doesn't make sense. All right, so I'm going to add some additional enhancements like 360-degree obstacle sensors, okay? And maybe I'm going to add another feature, okay? So what have I done here? I've increased my quality by 20%, and I've increased my cost by about $160, okay? Which honestly is about 20% of 750, right? In this case, y'all, I haven't really returned that great value that I was hoping to return by redesigning the product. However, I want you to know that some of the things that I'm doing are just a start, okay? If you look at the differentiation strategy, and I'll go back to this slide. Y'all bear with me. I always have to remember to share it with folks that aren't with us, okay? Going back to this slide, critical for the differentiation strategy is I have to consistently upgrade differentiated features, okay? In other words, I don't take my drone from flying 12 minutes. Let me come here and share this screen, okay? I don't take my drone from flying just 12 minutes and go all the way to 30 minutes. That gets me my 5.4-star rating, but where do I go from there? It's very, very expensive to make that change in one. Y'all ever heard the term fail swoop? Avery's heard that term, okay. It's very expensive to make that change all at one time. Here's another thing about strategy that I haven't really shared with you, but if you're changing your strategy from, say, cost leadership to differentiation, or from differentiation to cost leadership, those changes need to be very incremental, right? In other words, you don't change everything about a brand overnight, or else you find yourself in Ron Johnson's place in the unemployment line. Remember Ron Johnson's failure at JCPenney, right? What did he do? He tried to change everything overnight. So if you can buy yourself some time, that's what you want to do. So it's okay to go to 15 minutes or so, but it's not okay to go to 30. And under no circumstances would I want to cut my flight time, right? I mean, come on, if people want drones that fly longer, cutting your flight time is kind of like the opposite of what your customers want. Don't try that one at home, okay? Here's something else I'd like to share with you. For the first 3 years that your company operated, you only made and sold cameras. For the last 2 years, you've made and sold drones, okay? you vertically integrated forward in the supply chain, okay? You move down the supply chain and now you're your largest customer. But just logically speaking, where does that tell you that you believe the future of the company is? Is the future of the company in cameras or is it in drones? Right? That's the more profitable product also, okay? Because we're talking about more absolute dollars, okay? So I'm going to actually increase my spend on research and development. And I understand that that research and development is now costing me $132.60 per unit, okay? And I'm okay with that because I'm making an investment for the future of my company, because remember what research and development does. I just showed you, it's in the help screen, right? I just showed you what R&D does, okay? It's got a future payback, okay? All right, so next, we're going to go to camera marketing. Everybody in the industry was selling for $225. Everybody, okay? So I'm going to do a little math for you. Hopefully, our folks that are at home can see this, but what I'm going to do, hopefully to help them out, is I'm going to zoom my camera here just a little bit, okay? Remember, our customers have a cue about value. Their cue on value is it sells for $225 and it's a 4-star product, okay? Can you do that math? Okay. All I'm doing is reducing the fraction or doing the math on it, okay? Customers are accustomed to paying $56.25 per star. I've increased my quality by 35%. And it's not enough to just increase my price by 35%. I probably need to increase my price even more than 35%. Because remember, at the heart of the differentiation strategy is you want to charge a premium, okay? So I'm going to take a really hard look at this and think really hard about what I want to do, because I don't know what you guys are going to do. And remember, my strategy is only as good as your response to it, okay? I'm going to pick a number from my brain and say, I want $60 per star. Okay, that's a premium, right? You understand that that's $3.75 per star more than the industry has been charging, right? But if I take that $60 per star and then multiply it times 5.4 stars, okay, my new selling price is $324. Provided that I've done the math correctly in my head. And my head's not as smart as it used to be. You checking my math? Okay. All right, so my new selling price is $324. Hopefully y'all can see that in the Zoom feed. All I did was a little bit of math, okay? So now I need to adjust my price. My average wholesale price to retailers is $324. And what would you expect to happen to your quantity demanded when you raise your price that much? It's going to go down, right? And you see that even though I increased the quality, my quantity demanded dropped, okay? My market share dropped. And I'm okay with that because I believe that I'm going to do some additional stuff to help me try to get demand back up. Oh, I don't know what's important if I'm going to spend $5.99 on a camera. And remember, this is business to business that we're talking about. That's our distribution method on the camera. What we see here is our average wholesale price to retailers. That means our retailers are buying it from us and marking it up. So that $324 probably becomes $599 in Best Buy, okay? If somebody's gonna pay $599 for a camera, do you think that they expect more than a 60-day warranty? If I spend $600 on a camera and it croaks in 2 months and I take it back to Best Buy, we got a problem, right? So the industry's been providing that, but if I provide a much better than expected warranty, which is to say 6 months, that's 3 times as much as the industry has been providing, that should help me to get some of my demand back. Warranty is one of those features that you can use to increase demand. Okay, in addition, if you look at the help screen, it will tell you that sales promotions and discounts at 10% really don't do anything for you. Okay? Sales promotions and promotional discounts are very important marketing decisions. Promotional campaigns involving sales prices of 15 to 20% off the regular price have substantially greater sales enhancing impact than promotions offering only 5 or 10% discounts. Okay? So if you don't change your discount from that 1 week 10% discount, I know right away that you have not read the participants guide, Conrad. Okay? I'm talking to Coach Ray about you the next time he's out cutting his grass and saying, you know, Conrad's a nice guy, but he's not reading the materials. Okay? So you need to give at least a 15% discount. Okay? And that's really not doing anything to help us increase demand. That didn't increase quantity demanded. So if I do a 2-week discount, is that helping? Okay. What I've got to do here is I've got to get above the average with my marketing efforts. Okay. I've taken my product from a 4-star to a 5.4 star. Do I need to tell my customers about that? I need to do some serious advertising, right? I've got 2 methods of advertising. I've got my advertising budget and I've got my website display advertising. Okay. Historically, I spent $2.5 million in North America on advertising. I spent $1.5 million in North America on website displays. In Europe, I spent $1.4 million and $1.2 million. Asia, $1,900,000. Latin America, $750,000, $600,000, respectively, on advertising and website displays. You got a premium product, what do you have to do? You need to promote the heck out of it, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to increase my advertising spend. And I'm just very intentional and very consistent in the decisions that I make, okay? I was spending $2.5 million there. I'm changing that to $3 million. There's a method to my madness. And you can use this method if you want to, but it just helps me to remain the second step, consistent, okay, in what I do. The reason I picked $3 million there is I've got 3,000 retail shops. Should I peg my advertising to how many people are buying my product? I mean, best practices tell you that your advertising budget should be a % of sales, although it shouldn't be a variable expense, right? So I want to peg it to something that as I gain or lose retailers, I can make adjustments to my spend, okay? Now, maybe you want to do multi-store chains, maybe you want to do online retailers, maybe you want to do local retail shops. I don't know which you want to do, okay? But just thinking logically, my advertising budget, if I spend $1,000 per retail shop, that means I spend $3 million on advertising in North America, right? And my spend here, y'all, is in thousands of dollars. So 3,000 equals 3,000, which equals 3 million, okay? The same thing happens in Europe. I've got 2,500 retailers. I want to spend 2.5 million. In Asia, I've got 2,000 retailers. I want to spend 2 million. In Latin America, I've got 1,000 retailers, so I want to spend $1 million, okay? My next line is website displays. And I'm making it a little more complex than I did this morning, y'all. But you see, I'm spending website displays. Doesn't it make sense to tie website displays to your number of online retailers? I mean, come on, now we're talking website displays and online retailers. We're promoting product for them, okay? So if I tie that to what they're doing, okay? Let's see, what would be a good number? If I spend $3,000 for every online retailer that I have, that's going to give me an expenditure in North America of $2,160,000, right? Let me check my math, okay? I've got 72 retailers, and I spend $3,000 per retailer, okay? Excuse me, that's $30,000 per retailer. 72 retailers times 30,000. My number there on my spend, if I say I want to spend, I need to increase my spend, right? That's what I'm after, because I'm trying to tell people I've got a much better product. I'm going to change that from 1.5 million to 2.16 million, or 2,160,000. In Europe, Africa, I'm going to take that same 30,000 number per online retailer, and my spend becomes 1.8 million. Okay. I've got 48 retailers, and 30,000 per retailer should be 1.44 million. Okay. And in Latin America, I've got 36 retailers. And that would give me a spend of 1,080,000. Okay. Now, I'm not telling you you have to do this, and I don't even expect you to remember this, and I darn sure don't expect you to watch the video. I don't care what you spend. What I'm trying to do is give you something that is intentional, consistent, and logical. Okay? So in other words, did I decide what I was going to spend and not just arbitrarily put the money out there? It's intentional, right? Is it consistent with my strategy? And is it consistent again across my 4 geographic markets? Very importantly, yes to both of those, okay? And does it make sense? In other words, can I explain it to you in such a way that you understand? And I realize I'm up here with a fire hose and I'm trying to give you a drink of water. Literally, I'm feeding you with a fire hose. But I'm just trying to make it make sense, okay? So what did I do? I tied your advertising budget to your number of local retail shops. $1,000 per retailer. And I tied your website display advertising, my website display advertising, to my number of online retailers, which to me just makes a whole lot more sense than what I normally do, right, Shakib? Okay. I did $30,000 per online retailer. Okay. I've increased my warranty. I've increased my advertising spend. I've increased my price. I've increased my PQ rating. I've increased my discounts. Okay. One other thing that I can do here is I can increase my retailer support. Since this is business to business, I've got to have people selling my product in order to get my product into the stores, right? I've got to get my customers interested in selling my product. That means that I need to now, even more so because I've increased my PQ rating by 35%. Here, I'm going to keep this up that long, okay? I need to support my retailers, and maybe to me, Claire, that means that I've got to go out there and I've got to spend a lot more time educating them. I've got to educate my retailers. Last year, we spent on support, okay, we spent $6 per unit. Now, this is a finite number of dollars. Okay, we decide how many dollars, and then based on how much we actually sell, it's calculated per unit. But given my projections, right, I'm projected to sell 267,600 in North America, 233.9, 175.5, and 117.2. If I say, for instance, that I'd like to spend 33% more than I did last year, okay, that's $8 per unit. Okay, so I can simply multiply $8 per unit times our demand. Okay, but because I'm going so far outside of the norm of what I've done in the past, I'm actually going to increase this to $10 per unit. Now, be careful when you decide these budgets, right? Because we know when we make an expenditure, we know that there's such a thing as economies of scale. What they forget to teach you about it with economies of scale is diminishing returns. And they darn sure don't teach you about negative returns. Well, maybe Dr. Martinez does. Right? You learn about negative returns. What does that mean? It means that spending more actually costs you money. Okay? But because I'm trying to do this on the fly and I'm trying to make it make sense for you, I'm going to put that at $10 per unit. Okay? Because that just makes my math easy. With 267,600 units of demand, if I come in here and do 2676, that's going to get close to $10, except one thing. Because I spent more money on retailer support, my demand went up. Did you see that? But I'm going to start there, okay? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do 2339. You see how demand went up? 1755, okay? Okay? So because demand went up, I actually came in a little under my planned $10 per unit expenditure, but now I'm getting close enough that if I do 2475 or 2745 rather, okay? You see now the diminishing returns, okay? Negative returns even, okay? I was at 2750, okay? Watch what happens, y'all. I was at 2750, okay? And I'm spending $9.99 per unit. My demand is 275,300. If I go to 2753, okay, there I am. But if I go over that amount, my costs still go up. So now I've reached the point of negative utility. My marginal utility is negative, okay? So I'm just intentionally trying to get that number to $10 per unit. It's never going to wind up there, okay? Because that number is based on my budgeted spend divided by my actual sales. I'm budgeting based on a projection. My actual is probably not going to match my projection. So what's going to happen? It's going to come in differently, okay? But I'm pretty close. Okay, so I've got them all now at $10 per unit, okay? So that is my marketing strategy, which really consists of a lot of tactics. That's part of my much larger strategy of differentiation. My business level strategy is differentiation. My marketing strategy essentially says that I'm going to price it at a premium and I got to market the ever-loving heck out of it. So my tactics line up with that, right? You see how that's intentional and logical and consistent, right? Okay, so there we go. Let's look at our drone. We can do the same thing with the drone. Okay? I'm going to change my math. Okay. Last year, my drone sold for an average price of $10.75. Okay. That's $1,100 in North America and Europe. Okay. And $1,050 in Asia and Latin America. Average selling price is $10.75. Okay. If I do the math on that, okay, is that, help me out, is that 268? Whoops. Is that 268.75 per star? Okay. But I'm not making a 4-star. I'm making this year a 4.8 star. And I could just say, okay, I'm going to increase my price across the board by 20% because I increased my PQ rating by 20%. Right? That's not consistent with a differentiation strategy. You want that premium. Okay? So I'm going to go a step further and I'm going to say, okay, my new price is $280 per star. Okay, and I'll never be able to do this math in my head. What's 280 times 4.8? Shakika? 1344. Okay. I'm gonna be honest with you, that just really doesn't even sound like enough. Given that I'm making something 20% better than you guys, right? I think I'm going to go up, I'm going to go up to $1,400 across the board. Okay, so I'm putting a premium on my premium. And what am I doing? I'm actually gambling that my customers are going to be willing to pay $1,400. So when I change my price to $1,400, watch my demand drop. Okay, I'm projected to have a 15.4% market share. When I go to $1,400, my market share just dropped by 5 points. I'm okay with that because remember, on this end of the continuum, high margin, low volume, okay? All right, this is a very different business model than your camera. On your camera, it's B to B. You sell your product to a wholesaler, or you sell your product wholesale to a retailer who sells it to the end user. Here, I'm B to business, B to B, and B to C. Okay? I set the retail price of my product, and I sell direct to my consumers, but I also have third-party retailers. And for those third-party retailers' trouble, I give them a discount off of retail price. In other words, that's their margin. Okay? Right now, everybody in the industry is given a 15% discount. 15% of $1,400 per. That's 104. It's $210. Everybody makes $210 for every drone that they sell. But I've changed things, okay? So I'm going to increase the discount that I'm giving them just as an effort to try to get a little extra attention, okay? I'm going to increase that to 16%. Oh, by the way, now that I've upped my price by more than 30%, and I have more than 30%, I probably need to increase my warranty. And I'm simply going to match what I'm doing on my camera. Right? I'm going to give them a 6-month warranty. Okay? I'm going to spend money on website displays and on search engine advertising. Website displays, display ads, and search engine marketing. Right now, I'm spending $1.5 million on both in North America 1.2 million in Europe, Africa, and I'm spending 50% more on website display advertising and search engines in Asia, and I'm spending twice as much in Latin America. So do you see how those are inconsistent across my 4 markets? I'm spending the same amount here, and I'm spending a third less here and half as much here. Okay? So is there something that I can tie that to? Well, given that I want to increase my sales considerably, I'm going to put into that, I'm going to spend $100,000 per retailer. Okay? I've got 36 retailers in North America, 3.6 million. I've got 30 retailers, 3 million. Okay. I've got 24 retailers, 2.4 million. And I've got 18 retailers. I'm going to spend 1.8 million. Okay. Do y'all see where that math is coming in? I'm spending $100,000 per retailer. Okay. And because I was spending the exact same amount on website displays and search engine marketing in North America and Europe, Africa, okay, I'm going to do that same thing in Asia Pacific and Latin America. I'm going to spend the exact same amount. Okay. So what I did was I took this, multiplied it times 100,000 to get 2.4 million. 1.8 million. Okay. So now my demand isn't looking bad at all, right? I've got great demand. Okay. If it works that way, okay, I've actually worked myself into a bit of a quandary here, because my problem is that I've done so much marketing of my product that I don't have capacity to build the darn things. Okay, I've got to work 100% of my overtime in order to build them, and if I want to avoid overtime, I have to expand my factory. Okay, so there's one more variable I want to change, but I'm going to raise the price by $100. Okay. Now, in a perfect world, when y'all are doing this, every time that you adjust the price, you're looking to see what it does to demand and what it does to profitability. I'm painting with a really broad brush here. Okay. I'm skipping a lot of steps, but I knew that I had a capacity problem. I was going to have to work a lot of overtime. And if y'all remember from operations management, you don't want to work a lot of overtime in your factory, and you darn sure don't want to be above 100% capacity. Okay. So I raised my price to try to bring that in line. I'm spending a heck of a lot more marketing my product, which is what I truly believe is consistent with the differentiation strategy. Okay. So I'm okay with charging a premium above a premium. Oh yeah, above a premium. Okay. Because if you'll remember, it was $13.44 was what we said our premium price was going to be, right? Okay. We took that to $1,400, and now I've taken it to $1,500. And by the way, that's more than $300 per star, because I have a 4.8 star drone, and I'm charging $300 plus per star to get my price at $1,500. Okay. Last thing I need to do is to get my retailers to sell my product. I'm going to do some retailer recruitment and support. Okay. This is only based on your third-party retailer demand. Okay. So if I look at my third-party demand here, it's 17.5 thousand. I want to spend $100 per unit. Okay. So that means I need to spend $1,750,000. Here it's 14.8. I'm trying to get that number to $10 per unit. Okay. What's happening is I'm learning that that is very sensitive to me spending money, right? I went from 300-ish to 550, and my demand increased by 700 units here, my demand increased by 800 units here, my demand increased by 2,300 units there, and 2,300 units there. Okay. All I'm trying to do is get my retailer recruitment and support to $100. Last year in the industry, it was $80 per unit. I want more retailers selling my product, okay? I'm going to give them a little better pay for selling it. And notice you have to play with the numbers just a little bit, y'all. So when I increase it again, I get even more demand. Okay. And I'm going to increase each now, 2120. Okay. Here, I'm going to do 1820. Nope, not enough. Okay. Should have stayed at 1840. Here it's 9.9, so I'm going to do 1,020,000. Nope, too much. 1010. And here I'm going to do 6,700. Okay. Whoops. No, I'm sorry. 670 is what I should have done. Okay. 650. All right. So what have I done there? I have pegged my retail recruitment and support budget at $100 per unit. Okay. So for every drone that I sell through a third party, I'm giving them $100 worth of support. I'm recruiting them and supporting them after the sale, okay, with $100. So is that part of my marketing budget? You betcha, right? Okay. So I've changed all my variables, okay, up here. Now, I'm not going to go here because of time, but these competitor assumptions, I addressed those in my video to the 8 o'clock class this morning. Just a word, don't monkey with them right now. Okay? Don't mess with them right now. Next, we go to compensation and facilities. Okay. At the very least, what do we need to do? We need to start by filling the holes in our factory. Okay. When I say a hole in your factory, what does it mean? Here's the deal, y'all. Think of your factory as a box. Right? I'll draw it 2D for you, two-dimensional, okay? That box will hold 300 workstations. You've got 280 installed. That means that there's a portion, maybe it's over here in this corner, but there's a portion of that box that doesn't have any workstations. It's literally a hole in your box, okay? And if you want to think about that like the black holes in space, right? Those holes suck up excess inventory. Okay, here's the problem. If I'm making product and I'm getting an incentive to keep producing product, then part of their pay is an incentive pay. I'm getting an incentive, $4.80 for every drone that I make. I'm gonna make as many drones as I possibly can because I want to hit my bonus, right? I'm getting paid per drone. So where does the excess inventory show up? Even though you've got a big, huge stack of inventory in front of your workstation, Megan's going to keep making it. And she's just going to put it in that hole. Okay? Because we're paying her an incentive to make the product, right? Which is a good thing. Incentives make your workers more productive, right? But we don't have a mechanism in place to make her stop. And that mechanism to make her stop, because there's not going to be a dadgum hole in our factory. There's no place for her to put that excess inventory. So when the pile is full, you stop working, okay? That helps to make your factory more efficient. So I filled the holes in both factories, okay? Globus Participants Guide tells you very clearly that your workers expect a 2% annual raise, okay? Tells you very clearly, okay? Annual increases in base pay of 2% or more lead to higher levels of productivity. What does that mean? That really means that the minimum raise you should be giving your workers, if you want them to be more productive, the minimum wage you should be giving them, minimum increase you should be giving them is 2%. Okay? You saw something happen there. Okay, my productivity went up and my need for overtime here went down. Okay? I also did something very crazy. Y'all, I increased my warranty period 3-fold. Now there's a problem with those warranties. I have to service them, okay? The participant's guide will tell you what percentage come in defective, but in compensation and facilities, I can increase the assembly quality incentive and lower my warranty claim rate. You got to be careful with that, because if you increase your assembly quality incentive too much, you're putting an incentive on the wrong thing. They will work so hard to make quality products that their productivity actually goes down. Okay? So you got to incentivize what matters. I have this other unique theory that people who come to work are much more productive than people who don't come to work. So I'm going to give them a 25% higher attendance bonus than the industry. And oh yeah, I'm going to give them 20% more fringe benefits than the industry. Okay? And you see, those things have increased my workers' productivity. Okay? You see that? All right. So now part of the theory of constraints, there I go with that stupid theory again, right? Theory of constraints. Y'all remember the movie The Goal? Who was the constraint? Who was the one bottlenecking things? It was Herbie, right? Okay. Your output is limited by your slowest process, right? Wasn't that the lesson of that? The whole output of your factory is limited. It's constrained by the slowest resource that you have. Okay? So if you try to run everybody at 100%, what do you have? Your bottleneck's trying to run at 120%. And what happens when your bottleneck runs at 120%? Herbie has a heart attack, right? That'd be a bad thing. Okay? So we want our factory's capacity to exceed our demand. And there's a good rule of thumb, you know, you want demand to be about 80 to 85% of your capacity. 80% of 911 would be roughly 723,000 units. I've got demand of 816. You know, hypothetically, I should actually make my factory bigger. Okay? However, I'm running a differentiation strategy, and part of a differentiation strategy says that you have lower quantity demanded. Okay? So I don't want to load up with a big factory and lots of capital assets, because what happens if my theory that I can run a differentiation strategy and charge a 30 or 40% premium on these products doesn't happen? I'm stuck with a big, huge factory that I don't have anything to do with. Okay? So I'm going to leave that factory there. And in the short term, even though you would never run a factory at 100% of capacity, in the short term, it's okay. As long as it's the very short term. Okay? So what am I saying? I'm just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit over 100% of my capacity. I'm going to leave that alone for the time being. There's actually something that I want to do that will help to fix that. You got to skip special contracts, but if you go to corporate citizenship, okay, you're going to see that a cafeteria and on-site daycare center increases worker productivity by 100 units in your camera facility and 50 units in your drone facility. Now, it costs you $2.5 million up front and $600,000 per year to operate. But I get productivity from that, okay? And aside from that, Y'all, I'm running a differentiation strategy, which means I'm going to have lower market share, which means I'm going to have to invest in these corporate social responsibility initiatives. Okay, I've got higher margins so I can afford to. And in this case, it's just absolutely the right thing to do. Okay, if y'all were paying attention, I got a bump in my image rating of 4 points by doing that. My image rating went from 71 to 75. Okay, when I go back to compensation and facilities, guess what? Because my workers are now more productive, they can make 174,000 units and my demand is still 168.4, so I'm not at capacity. Now I'm like 96% of capacity, so I might have some bottlenecks, but I'm going to hedge my bets on that, okay? I don't want to do a big expansion. Over here, okay, I'm running about 85% of capacity-ish, right? 85% of capacity, and I'm okay with that. I haven't expanded my factory. All I did was fill the holes in my factory to stop Megan from producing inventory out of control, okay? To allow Herbie to catch up, okay? All right. So back to corporate citizenship. Because my image rating is projected to be 5 points greater than my investors expect, I'm not going to do anything right now, but just know that at some point in the future, you're going to have to put money in other CSR initiatives, okay? Last screen, we got 6 minutes to talk about this, okay? We don't have to do anything at all on our finance and cash flow screen. Don't do that. Okay, that would be a mistake. You perfectly cash flow. Put in those 20 workstations in your drone factory and 10 workstations in your, or 20 in your camera and 10 in your drone. You paid for those from cash flow from operations, right? I mean, our debt to equity ratio went down. I mean, it's almost 1-to-1 now. Our current ratio went up. Our interest coverage ratio went up. I mean, we're in great shape. We got $20 million left. Woo-hoo! Life is good, right? You need to constantly be looking at your weighted average cost of capital. Now, there's a reason we taught y'all that in business finance. Weight times rate, which is cheaper? Debt is always cheaper than equity, right? Proof of that, okay? You can take a 10-year loan at 6.5%. Your investors expect a 17.5% return on their equity. Now, which would you rather pay? You'd rather pay 6.5% so that you can exceed your investors' expectations, right? Even further, so that they will more highly value your stock. Okay? So our friends supply and demand come into play here. Okay? We definitely want to buy back our 200,000 shares of stock that Globus will allow us to buy back this year. Our poor patient shareholders, they've never been paid. They've never gotten any money for their ownership. We need to give them a dividend. You decide what your dividend policy is, but I just think that if I pay my investors 25% of my earnings, that's leaving me 75% for future growth, right? And until we get this thing figured out, that's probably fair. That's probably okay. Particularly in light of the fact that they've never gotten a dividend, they'll probably appreciate that 50 cents, okay? And we've got some long-term debt that's really expensive. I'm gonna take Courtney and Sierra for a ride across the screen. My number 2 loan here, second loan I took in the history of the company, is $16 million principal balance at 8.5% interest. Third loan I took in the history of the company is $64 million at 8.5% interest. I'm gonna pay those off, okay? So the combination of paying off that $80 million in long-term debt and buying back 200,000 shares of stock, which cost me $2.424 million, and paying a 50% dividend, which cost me $10 million, that means that I've got a cash shortfall at the end of the year. My bank account is $72 million overdrawn. Your banker doesn't like you when that happens, okay? So you get an emergency loan, which is a 1-year loan. You'll get an emergency loan or an overdraft loan at 7.5% interest. That happens automatically. But if we can borrow money at 6.5%, why would we want to borrow money at 7.5%? And since some of that expenditure went to replace long-term debt, and some of it went for some capital assets, we want to finance that stuff as long as possible, right? Who here would buy a house on a credit card? A car on a credit card? Oh yeah, would you buy a meal on a credit card? The only time you should do that is if you can afford to pay that credit card back in full at the end of the month. Because guess what that meal looks like tomorrow morning? And you're paying for it 5 years from now on your credit card if you can't pay it off every month, okay? So, I mean, that's just good personal financial principles, right? So we'll finance that as long as we possibly can. And we want to make sure that we have plenty of operating capital in the bank. So I'm going to borrow, in this case, $90 million, okay? $90 million on a 10-year loan. By the way, that cost me 6.5% interest. Paying off these two loans here saved me $1.6 million in interest. That goes straight to the bottom line, okay? And I've got $17.9 million in cash at the end of the year. My debt equity ratio actually goes down. My coverage ratio is up. My current ratio is up. I'll talk more about those in the weeks that come. I talked a little bit about those in the 8 o'clock video that's already been uploaded, right? Let's just say this. In Globus, there's a preference for your credit rating to keep your debt equity ratio lower than 2-to-1. Now, I know in business finance and in entrepreneurship, I tell you that 4-to-1 is the preferred ratio, right? 20% equity, 80% debt gives you a 4-to-1 ratio. Globus has a bias that says you need to keep it to about 2-to-1, okay? If you get more than 2-to-1, it starts to hurt your credit rating, okay? We have a rule of thumb for current ratios. Twice as many current assets as current liabilities, but because you're using a just-in-time system and you're making your products to order, you have very low inventory. If we talk about current assets, remember we're talking cash, accounts receivable, and inventory. What happens if I have very low inventory? My current ratio is going to be a little bit lower, right? Because that's the numerator in my fraction. One of those is inventory, and if I have low inventory, the rule of thumb for current ratio, all businesses, all industries, Manley's handy heuristic here is 2-to-1. Twice as many current assets as current liabilities. If you've got a 2-to-1 current ratio in Globus, your ratio is too high because you're not an inventory intensive business. Okay? Make sense? Interest coverage, operating profit divided by interest expense. In the real world, a 3-to-1 is good enough. Okay? All right, I'm going to save and upload this video. It will appear in D2L this afternoon under Globus videos, implementing the differentiation strategy. You've already got a video link for implementing the cost leadership strategy, okay? That was recorded this morning. So feel free to look at those. Your decisions are due by 11 o'clock tonight, and your exam's due by midnight. Okay, so y'all got a busy afternoon. Good luck.
Yeah.